responsibility may also mean that the person will take some blame. Criticisms, that's what people call it most of the time. And that is in order. So I better start sharing my screen, and that will allow us to follow through on the slide. Okay, let me just confirm to me if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Fantastic. All right. So the topic before us to start this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, is the subject of personal leadership. And the question for me is, what is leadership to start with? There's a great assumption that people make about leadership. As a matter of fact, if I go on to the next slide and I begin to pose to us a few questions, the first of which is, who really is a leader? If I go around this group, and then, of course, by the time you're listening, I'm sure you have lots of ideas about who a leader is. You may think it's that man or that woman with the title, the head of the corporation, the head of the church, the prominent person in society, the person with a lot of resources, money, influence, and all that. But again, I would want us to brood over this and not just answer them just yet, even though some of these may already have been formed. Some ideas around this might have been formed in the minds. But who is a leader? And the second question then follows, which is, what really is leadership? What is leadership? Another question that follows is, why is leadership important? Let me just make a comment here that if you have ever complained about a situation, whether that is the state of your country or the countries that you live in or go into, if you have ever complained about the state of, say, the church, or your society, if you have ever wondered why things are not going in the right direction, can I suggest to you that, well, the apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. You have to look at the leadership that is in place in that environment and in that situation. Another question here is a leader's position, that's what I should have written there, is leadership position, or is a leadership position important to exercise leadership? If I put that another way, do you need to have a leadership position to exercise leadership? Because oftentimes that's the excuse of the great majority. They say, well, our leaders, they use this as this statement, our leaders, or this phrase, our leaders are not helping us. Our leaders are not good. Our leaders are doing something bad. Our leaders. So all of these things are used time and time again. And I wonder, do we need to have leadership positions to exercise leadership? Now, is leadership about telling other people what to do? Is it someone who commands everyone and orders everyone around? Is that what leadership is? Is it about who is richest? Who is, sometimes, people think the person with the huge physique, the one with the big, broad chest is the leader. The one with the deepest voice. Is leadership being the one others depend on? These are questions we have to ask. Because when we're talking about the subject of leadership, one other thing I have to say is that whenever an invitation is made to come into a leadership discussion such as this, most people take the attitude that, well, that is not for me. well, if only our leaders can be here to hear this. Can I suggest that, well, you are the right one to be hearing this, and it's actually okay for you to be here. And I'll tell you why. Let's go on. Well, I wish we have more time to really deliberate and discuss. I would have wanted to know our opinion. But in fact, let's do something. Can I ask us to engage the chat button? If you have any thoughts on on all of these questions that I asked prior, put them in the chat button. Let's see what your thinking is across all of this. Anyone that resonates deeply with you, let's keep this engaging. I always like my sessions to be engaging, to be participatory. So put your thought there. As a matter of fact, even as we go on, by all means, use the chat facility, type in, make your notes, I'll suggest, and let's make this worthwhile. Right. Why do we have to talk about personal leadership? Well, my suggestion here is that the leadership journey for any and every one of us begins, right, there's a typo there, begins with personal leadership. But can I also say that it does not end with personal leadership? It actually continues with personal leadership, because as an individual, you must continue to lead yourself in order to remain relevant as a leader. Now, whether we like it or not, we are always being led. How about that for a statement? We are always being led. The only problem is you may not like who is leading you, and you may not agree with where they are leading you to. But as long as you delegate the reins of leadership to another person, you have no choice but to end up wherever they lead you. We are always being led. I'll compare it to if you go on a journey, let's say you're traveling from Lagos to Abuja, and you're on a coach, or what do you call those big vehicles? Those big buses.
Luxurious bus.
Yes, luxurious bus or whatever it is. Now, as long as you're not the driver and you are one of the passengers, you are heading where your driver is taking you. If your driver somewhere along the journey decides to turn to Lokoja, guess where you're going to find yourself? The destination of your leader. If your leader is drunk, well, you better start praying, because God will really need to help you. You will end up wherever your leader is taking you, as long as you are on the same journey. So we are always being led, but the question is, do you want to go where your leader is going? And if you do not like where your leader is taking you, you have to make a decision. Do I want to be on this journey? Now, that's why I'm qualifying this statement to say true leadership, because that implies that you may have a kind of leadership that is defective. But also, I'll put it this way: true leadership is an inside-out affair. What does that mean? Leadership begins from within the individual before you start to see the effect outside. What has not happened inside you cannot happen outside of you. So, which is why a person can take a position of leadership and chaos ensues. And all you have is just a country that is going down the drain. Because if that person's personal leadership has not been cultivated in the right way, well, you're going to inherit all of the damage and the chaos and the unfortunate state of the heart of that leader. So true leadership is an inside-out affair. Now, the change that you can make happen around you is the one that has occurred within you, because you simply cannot give what you don't have. As I'm saying all this, I'd like you to chime in. Just look around you and ask whether what we are presenting here is true. Look at the state of your nation, the state where you live, the city where you live. Look at the church you attend. Look at the school you go to. Look at the institutions around you. Now, I'm not even just castigating a particular country. That's not my intention. Cast your mind further. Look at even the international sense and begin to answer. Maybe let the thoughts begin to crystallize in your mind to really understand the cruciality of leadership. Now, for me, I think it's crucial to bust some myths. We need to be clear what leadership is not. If I make you do something, if I dangle a punishment in front of you and say, if you do not do this, you will not earn your salary, and I force you to do that thing, would you say I'm a leader? Well, I may be a leader, but not just a good leader. So I would say leadership exists in so many spheres, but we need to qualify this. We need to qualify leadership and say, true leadership is what we are really after. So I should say what true leadership is not, actually. That's what I would prefer to write there. Now, true leadership is not manipulation. It is not coercion. We have too many manipulative people. Well, you don't need to think too broadly. Just check around you. If I want your vote and I say, here's a bag of rice, here is £1, $2, here is 10 naira. Guess what is happening there? I am inducing you, I'm manipulating you. Now, true leadership also is not about coercion, it's not about suppression of people, it's not about oppression of people. Because true leadership is not at the expense of others. Now, you begin to see why we're beginning with personal leadership, because the state of a leader is so important, because that is what then begins to show in their leadership. So who you are is what you make happen around you. That's why we must always begin with personal leadership anytime we're talking about leadership discussion. True leadership or your personal leadership should not be one that you're not willing to pay a price for. True leadership is costly, and you must expect to pay a price for it. So true leadership is not, oh, I've now gotten this luxurious position, now everyone can serve me, now I have a lot of money at my expense. That's not leadership. No, that's not. That is organized crime. Okay. True leadership does not cancel the value of others. These are fundamental philosophical statements, but true nonetheless, because they go into the heart of what leadership is. True leadership does not cancel the value of others. I mean, if I'm allowed, I could stay on this page for the whole hour that we have. Because if these things are not understood and does not begin to transform our minds, everything else that we say is a waste of time. You cannot devalue people and still lead them aright. So a leader adds value, creates value, multiplies value for people, does not devalue people. A leader restores people back to value, restores their value back to them, restores their quality of life, a good quality of life to them. So if anyone is devaluing you, taking away their quality of life, canceling your value, that is not a true leader. That is an impostor. Now, leadership, true leadership, is not according to the Greek philosophy. Well, that's a whole lot of story to talk about. Now, the Greeks believe that leadership is by providence, i.e., the gods must have gifted you to be a leader. Otherwise, you cannot be a leader. They believe that leadership is for a select few, those who have oratory powers, people who can speak. So if you cannot speak, let's say you are shy or you are even a stammerer, unfortunately, they believe you cannot be a leader because a leader must have great power of speech. A leader must have certain physical attributes that make them imposing and just physically respectable. They have very corrupt ideas of leadership. And unfortunately, that is when you go to most of the schools, that's what you go to learn. They're trained from this mindset, from this philosophy, and they still exhibit it. And you see it in organizations, whether it is business or religious or political or any other organization. That philosophy has shaped the mindset of people. Now, this is a quote I got from one of my great mentors of blessed memory. The desire for leadership is natural. For you to desire not to understand leadership, to be a leader, that desire is not wrong, it's natural. But you must understand that it requires a process. Let's move on. Now, let's look at a few thoughts. Now, sometimes here, people get emotional about words. Let me explain why I use the word philosophy very briefly. Philosophy simply means a thought that you believe to be true, right? That's all it means. Don't get it worked up or mixed up to think, oh, is he a philosopher? And this is where I like, if you are religious, I want to challenge your religious thinking to the foundation of it, to the core. So inside everyone that is a follower or that is following, a leader resides. A leader is right inside of you. But that leadership needs nurturing, needs a process, needs development, needs discovery to manifest itself. Every human was created and designed to lead and wired to dominate. Every human. But there's something to pay attention to there, that your wiring to dominate is not over people. Leadership is not first and foremost about people. In fact, can I even suggest that leadership is hardly about people? And this is something that needs to be understood. Your leadership, your personal leadership, is in your area of gifting. Because every human comes into the world with a contribution that they have to make to the world around them. Now, these are not original things I came up with myself. This is a product of my own mentoring. I am a student who has been trained by great leaders. And I've evaluated what they've taught me. I've checked it. I've gone back to my foundation of leadership, which is in Christ. Well, that's that. Just to give that away. And I found this to be true. Now, leadership potential resides in everyone, meaning you, myself, we have the capacity to lead. We have the potential. It's there. Whether it's developed or not is another discussion. You are born to lead, but you must become a leader through a process. And there is no shortcut to this. What we refer to as true leadership is a manifestation of who you really are. Is a manifestation of what deposit resides within you. So, and that puts a responsibility on you as an individual, as an aspiring leader, to discover who you really are. Because so far we have not seen the real you. Let me suggest to you that what we are seeing right now is like a window blind. Behind that window blind, there's a whole lot behind it, which we have not seen just yet. What we are seeing right now is like wallpaper. We have not yet seen the real you. And unfortunately, that real you may never manifest all through life. And that's the great tragedy of the human condition. So you must decide to become a leader. You must decide to discover who you really are. Now, when you discover your leadership gift, something has to happen. Because discovery is not the same as manifestation. You must decide to be courageous. You must be confident. You must take the courage to become yourself. Why is this important? Because the moment you discover your leadership gifts and your real self, your environment will react negatively to you. They will say, no. We've always known you. We know when you are born. We know when you are sitting on a potty. We know how you sleep and snore. So you can be a leader. No. You, of all people. Your immediate environment, in fact, your friends will tell you to go and sit down. And that's why you need courage and confidence to manifest who you find in your self-discovery. So, to make a very quick point here, true leadership is not control. It's not about control. It's not controlling people. It's service. Because your commitment to service is what makes you great as a leader. True leadership is about empowering others to become themselves. It's not about power. It's not about getting power for yourself. Look, I'm saying a lot of things here, but I would suggest that you have to listen to this maybe 7 times for you to really sink in. When you hear a teaching such as this, you probably retain 15 to 30% of it at best. But you need to listen to it over and over again. And can I suggest one thing? Have the freedom. I'm giving you liberty to disagree with what I'm saying. Because you never truly believe until you first disagree, until you really challenge something and now find it to be true. Nothing is ever yours until you find it. So true leadership is about empowering others. It's not about power. And this is the danger, that when you see people going for power at all costs, that is a danger to humanity. That is a destructive individual. When someone is saying, I must have power, no, it's mine, I must get it, that is, alarm bells should be ringing heavily. true leadership is not about manipulation. Because someone who is desperate for power, we manipulate you, we coerce you. In fact, we'll induce you with anything and everything. Because as far as they are concerned, the goal is power. And once they get that power, guess who they're coming for? It's you. They will use that power over you. They will trample over you. It's guaranteed. You do not need a prophecy to work this out. So true leadership is not about manipulation. It's about inspiration. What is the difference between manipulation and inspiration? Please put that in the chat if you can. You see, manipulation, money is mean the word is making. I'm making you to do something. I'm inducing you. I'm externally driving you through certain stimulus to do something. But inspiration means I allow you the liberty, the freedom of choice to make your own decision and act. In other words, I'm not imposing myself on you. I allow it to come from inside. See that word, inspiration, means in breath or in animation, meaning the animation, the action comes from within you. But it goes without saying that when you cannot inspire people, you would resort to manipulating them. And that's why you must choose your leadership. Let me tell you something. You have no choice in this matter. You have to decide who your leader is, because you will end up wherever your leader is going. And unfortunately, if your leader is going to the ditch, guess where you find yourself? In the very same destination. So the matter of leadership is not something to take with levity. We just, you know what, I don't care. No, you have to care. Leadership, true leadership, is not about controlling people. It's about you finding purpose for your own life. And if you be generous, helping other people to find purpose for their own lives. It's not about controlling people. This is all of these ideas about controlling, manipulating. These are corrupt ideas or corrupted ideas about leadership. And unfortunately, these are in the mainstream society. So then you can start to wrap it up to say that true leadership is not about people, it's about purpose. Because leaders are created, they are generated by a sense of purpose. It's the purpose that the leaders found is what creates the leadership. That's playing with words. It's not driven by making people subjected to them. Last but not the least, leadership is about becoming more than doing. Yes, a leader will do things, but what a leader does, a true leader now does, and what he is are one and the same. And in fact, the greatest challenge of our lives is to make sure that who we are and what we do are increasingly one. You want to remove the gap between who you are and what you do. Because if there's a gap between who you are and what you do, you are pretending. The word for it is called hypocrisy. Now, let's look at a few thoughts here. And it's about the attitude. So if you look at all I've been saying, you will see that all that I've been talking about really has a lot to do with the mind of the leader, the mind or the mindset. Another word for that is attitude. Who a leader is in his mind is more important than what they do physically. The secret to change lies in cultivating the attitude of the mind. See, until your mind changes, you keep doing what you're doing. The critical difference between a leader and the followers is in the way they think. Leaders think differently from followers. And leaders who would make their mark, they learn to declare independence from the culture that produced them. Oh, I can't say this enough. Let me say this to you. The culture that produced you may be working adversely, may be working against you, may not be working in your favor. But that is not enough to cancel your leadership. If the environment that produces you is not working in the favor of your true leadership, you must do something. And it is mandatory. You must declare independence from that culture that produces you. Of course, that will attract opposition, but leadership invariably attracts opposition. Because look at the word leadership. The action word there is what? Lead. You cannot lead and stand still. To lead means to be going somewhere. You're heading somewhere. So a leader is someone who is heading somewhere and inspiring the people to go with him or with her. Now, again, I must say this, leadership is genderless. It's not a male thing. Neither is it a female thing. It's a human thing. It's a divine privilege given to human. All right. So my question then is, why is it that in spite of all that has been going on in our environment, positive change still seems to elude us? Well, you only change when your thinking changes. That's why I'm saying that the mind of a leader is what's most important. And I tell you what, your mind, the fact that you're on this platform already tells me that you are a leader, you believe you are a leader, and you believe that you can become the leader you are born to be. So congratulations and welcome. And the question and the charge for me to you is fasten your seatbelt. The journey is long. But this is true though, that the attitude that you have now as an individual is the result of your history, of your culture, and how you have been educated. Most of us have been educated wrongly. Oh, most of us have been miseducated. We more often than not, or more likely to be the case, have been raised by the wrong culture. Our culture literally works against us becoming ourselves. And your past experience, which is your history, whether your own immediate experience or the experience of people who have gone before you, I've always told you, no, keep quiet, be careful. Don't dare to talk. No. It's dangerous. And that's why most people prefer to follow and remain what I would call sheep. You know what? One of the dumbest animals in the world is the sheep. There's a lot that goes against the sheep. They have poor eyesight. They don't have upper teeth, so they can't bite. They don't have claws. Claws. They have hooves. And they're usually docile. They always need someone to lead them, sheep. So if someone calls you a sheep, the person is not complimenting you. Well, I'll tell you what, the only person who should call you a sheep, it should be God. So if God says, You are the sheep of my pasture. You can say, yes, God, only you should say that, and I agree. But if another human being is calling you a sheep, is not complimenting you. It certainly is giving you the worst description possible. Well, you probably know the story about the lion that was unfortunately found in a sheep pen. This happened. It's a real life story that happened in somewhere in Zimbabwe or in that part of Southern Africa, where the sheep was, a lion was caught as a cub, and the shepherd looked look around, and then brought the lion cub home. The lion cub is still a lion, right? So he brought lion home and tended it, but because the man was a shepherd, so the lion was raised among sheep, and the lion just began to act like sheep because of this critical word I want to say: nurture. How you are nurtured. That's why I've been saying your history, your culture, and your education. All of those things go into your nurturing. Your nurture can absolutely work against your nature. So you may have the capacity, but your nurture can alter, or shall I say, dampen the potential of your nature. You need your nurture and your nature and your nurture to work complementarily to become your true self. Anyway, the story of that lion goes that it was acting like a sheep until a time when he met another lion, and that lion more or less inspired, called out what was inside the lion. And from that time, that lion regained its true potential. We don't have all the time to go into that story, but I'm sure you've heard it more than once. But the point for me is this, ladies and gentlemen, it's not what we know that counts. It is whether our minds have been altered, whether the change has happened in their mind, whether there's conception in our minds. Okay. Defective nurturing cancels the potentials of nature. That's what I meant. If you're nurtured wrongly, you would find out that your potential is stifled. So, and at times, if that happens, you may need an external input. You may need an external intervention to remind you of who you really are, just like that lion. When another lion that has not been put in a domestic environment called out to this lion, the lion remembered. It was as if there was an awakening. And all I'm here to do, really, is to awaken that, if you like, domesticated leader inside of you to say, no. You are not obligated to accept the condition in which you have been produced. There's a lot we can say here. But when you begin to believe who you really are, you will become upset at what you have been made to be and what you have been made to believe. That is why it would appear initially that every leader is initially rebellious. See, that rebellion is good because it's not against a person. It's against the history that you've been forced to carry. It's against the education that has been imposed on your mind. It's against the culture that has produced you. You say, no, I do not have to accept it. When you begin to say that in your mind, guess what? A leader is being born inside of you. Because if you accept the status quo, you are no different than the rest of the people. Docile, passive, domesticated. So anger is actually what they call is the passion of the leader. And that is that is what fuels change and change actions. If you are not discontent about your current conditions, you will simply continue to tolerate it. You will continue to live in it and with it. True leaders are people who have decided to no longer tolerate what they have been handed over. They say, it does not have to be like this, and it will not remain like this, not on my watch. You see, no matter how long we've been kept passive, we've been subjugated, we've been smothered, the capacity to grow, the capacity for leadership is still there. It really does not die. It can only be what? Superimposed. But it is still there. Well, I had a story of someone who, about some of the seeds that were buried with some of the pharaohs in the Egyptian pyramid. And guess what? After 3,000 years, the seed that was preserved since that time still grew. They planted it and it still grew. What does that mean? The potential to grow is still in that seed, even after 3,000 years. So my question is, do you want to accept domestication and remain just as you are? If that is the case, you do not need to be on this platform. You can actually save your time, go back home, go and eat your food, go and play, and continue as it is. But if you want to discover your destiny and who you really have been designed to be, welcome. We're in good company. To become yourself, you must choose that, well, domestication is over for me. You see, domestication is welfare. If all you're interested in is welfare, you will never become yourself. As a young lion, you must meet yourself, because your future is trapped inside of you. It's called your leadership potential. It's right inside of you, and you must choose to discover it. Yes, a voice like mine that's coming your way, a voice like my friends, Reverend Dr. Shinaye, can inspire it, but you must decide. You must decide to become yourself. And that decision comes with what I call a belief in your leadership potential. So you must accept responsibility to think for yourself. You must accept responsibility to manage your own time and say, wait a minute, my time is not an appendage to other people's time. In other words, I'm not handling my time over to somebody else to use as they see fit. I am seizing, I'm taking back my time. Yes, if you are a believer in Christ, can say, I'm going to put my time in your hand. Now, here am I, school me. We'll have time to talk about religion, because that, for me, that is part of the problem. But that's a different matter. You must accept responsibility also, not for yourself, but progressively for others. Because a leader does not exist for himself alone, even though your personal leadership begins with you. But inevitably, you would have impact on other people. And guess what? It may even be that a lot of people are just waiting for you to find yourself, and that becomes the inspiration for them. Think about how many people that will remain in a current state of adversity until you decide to take on the mantle of your personal leadership? So leadership, from what I'm saying, is about mindset more than techniques. See, you can go to Harvard, you can go to Imperial College, you can go to Wharton, you can go to LBS and learn about techniques of leadership. Anyone can do that. But those techniques can just make you better manipulators, better, better coercers, better oppressors, clever oppressors. Because if you do not value people, you cannot be a true leader. It's impossible. So leadership is about mentality first, the mind of the leader. Oh, honestly, if that's all I have to say and all that you hear from me today, it will have been enough. How you think is more important than what you say or do. When I sit before anyone who's leading, all I'm looking for is, how does this person think? Because how you think is more important to me than anything you say or anything you do. Mentality is more important than the ability, when it comes to leadership. But remember this. Inside you is someone that is not yet known, and you must decide to change your mind to become that person. Let me share with you this definition. If you've ever read from a great leader, someone who trained me, Dr. Miles Monroe, he defined leadership in a way that I call this a functional definition of leadership. He defined leadership as the capacity to influence through inspiration that is generated by passion, which is produced by vision that is derived from the conviction of your purpose. And every word here, every keyword here is important, and we're going to go through it. I do not believe that leadership is just influence. Yes, it is true. Leadership is influence because every leader influences, whether it's good influence or bad influence. And that's why you have to ask. Leadership may be influence, but true leadership is not just influence, because the kind of influence matters. So it is true that leadership is the capacity to influence, but what kind of influence are we talking about? Let's look at it. Just to break that definition down. The key word there, you almost have to take that statement and turn it upside down and begin with purpose. And when it comes to purpose, this has nothing to do with anybody else first. It has everything to do with you first and foremost. As a matter of fact, it has everything to do with you and your maker. Purpose is the reason for your birth. Is the reason why God has given you life. This is independent of your current circle of relations, your friends. It's independent of the country you're born in. It doesn't matter, even if the country you live in is the worst in the world, it still doesn't matter. Your purpose came with you. And the origin of your purpose is God. It comes from your divine origin. It's in your DNA. In fact, if there's anything more finite and more tinier than DNA, it is the very essence of your life. And that's where purpose is stored. But when you begin to understand your purpose, something has to happen inside of you. You have to believe in what you are beginning to see as your purpose. And that's what is conviction. It is what makes you believe in your significance. That is to say, well, there may be more than 7 billion people in the world, but I come with a particular contribution. It doesn't call for arrogance. It just calls for belief. That I am valuable to the world. If you know the word of God in scriptures, that equates to you are the light of the world. Now, for someone to say that to you is telling you not just your purpose, but also something to believe in, something to be convinced by. Is knocking on your conviction to believe the idea that you are significant to your world. And your conviction will lead you to take responsibility. That what I've been given to do has become my responsibility. I can no longer complain. Let me tell you this. Complaining people are, my apologies, but let me say this. Complaining people are useless people. What does that mean? They have not found their use. So it's not an abuse, really. I'm just describing that situation. When you discover your purpose, you lose your right to complain about that thing you have found because it has become your responsibility. It's a kind of knowledge that you have the potential to do what you have been born to do. Now, with that conviction, with that belief, a picture begins to form in your mind. You will sleep and it comes to your mind. You will be lying down, it will come to your mind. You'll be playing and it comes to your mind. What you are saying is this: conviction soon begins to show up in pictures. That picture is what is called vision. That is seeing beyond your physical eyes. Vision is when your purpose begins to take shape. It begins to take form. It's like saying, and the word became flesh. It begins to take a form. You begin to think of something better that could happen. You look at your environment and you think, this can change. Young people don't have to become corrupt. You begin to think, families don't have to break down. You begin to think, we need more leaders in a society. And I feel an obligation to help raise more of those leaders. That's your conviction, the conviction of your purpose showing up in pictures. And as that picture crystallizes, something inside of you just does not want to take no for an answer. That thing is called passion. You are willing to take risks, to sacrifice, to see that conviction, that thing you are convinced about, and that thing you are seeing becomes reality. When that begins to happen, people begin to listen to you. People begin to gravitate towards you because passion is magnet. Again, let me warn, other people also begin to move away from you. You know, if you take a magnet, it attracts and it can also repel depending on the pole, that is the north or the southern pole. But your passion will attract people towards you. Some of them will be the right people. Some of them will be people to be careful with. Now, that passion that people see, when people see that you're willing to take risks and sacrifice for what you believe in, it inspires in them a desire to also become themselves. It inspires in them a desire to follow. Well, we don't have all the time. This is about all the time we have within this hour. But I know you may have questions. I know you will never have questions. I'll ask our moderator if we can take one or two, or whether anything is on the chat. Let me check. Or
Yeah,
maybe you, yes.
I
So
think there are a few things on the chat box. My question is, are you all done with the presentation, or you are still
yes.
going
So
to
yes, this segment kind of just closes with an aspect of personal leadership. The other question follows, which is how do I discover my leadership gift? We will look at that at another time. But for me, before we even talk about developing it and all that, it's crucial to first have the right mindset about leadership, and that
Okay.
your personal leadership is critical. So we can wrap it up here and pick and build on
Yeah,
it in
I'm
subsequent
just
questions.
thinking that that it will be necessary to also clear that aspect of discovering the personal leadership,
Okay,
because I'm just feeling that probably maybe we can just have two sessions today. Have uh, the course on personal leadership, then also take the second one on transforming your leadership. So, and I think if we do that, we'll be all set for today. I
okay,
have two questions here, but uh, probably maybe we should wait till the end so that we don't disrupt the flow of the class. Then
okay.
we can then ask the questions. And if any other
That's
person
absolutely
has
fine.
any question, they can ask their questions.
Okay. So do you want us to switch screens now? Or
No, no, no. What I'm saying, since you said there is a follow-up aspect on
oh yes,
discovering
yes.
your leadership, that you can just continue.
Okay, okay, sure,
So,
sure.
so that
Thank you. All right. If you have a questions, please use the chat button. We can collate it and we can begin to delve into it. Now, the
okay.
question then is, how do you discover your leadership gifts? Right. I won't go through all of this line by line because we've covered a lot of it or some of it in our previous um, section. But we have established the point that how you think as a leader is what differentiates you from followers. And you need the right information to really begin to that process of transformation into a leader. And the responsibility is personal and it is non-transferable, meaning you cannot delegate it. It is not up to someone else to make you a leader. You have to decide to be. Okay. Now, the reason why I went through that first segment is that understanding is critical in all of this. Nothing is yours until you understand it. And understanding for me is the basis of life because it simplifies life. It also enriches it. Okay. Now, we'll talk about what leadership is not. Okay, that's just a repetition. Sometimes I have no problem with repetition because sometimes we need to hear something over and over again before it really takes root in the mind. Okay, now I'm going to skip a few slides. I want to get to that aspect of really discovering it. But let me make a point here that if ever you need an education, I said before that most of us have been miseducated. But if ever we need a critical education after going to secondary school, university, first degree, second degree, tertiary degree, can I suggest to you that the real education you need is an education about yourself? Oh God. You can know so much about the molecule of nitrogen and know nothing about yourself. You can know so much about how to do people's accounts and know nothing about yourself. You can know so much about how to plant new crops, how to manipulate crops, do genetic engineering, and still know nothing about yourself. So I say then that the true education that we need, your priority education has to be an education about yourself. Because the key to success is discovering your personal leadership gift. So I'll then define your leadership gift as the assignment that everyone comes into the world with. There is something that you came into the world with. Let me use an example. It's going to be an analogy, and it's going to make the rest of my slides easier to follow. If I give you an orange seed, right? An orange seed, and you take it away from me and go plant it, what do you think the objective of that orange seed is? What do you think the goal of that orange seed is? I'll suggest to you that the orange seed has just one assignment. It's to grow into a tree that can produce fruit, more oranges. Does it care whether you like it or not? Does it care about your abuse and say, oh, look at the branch. It looks like letter A. Does it care? No, it doesn't care. Does it care how many people come to pluck the orange? It doesn't even care. Is it bothered that you throw a stone at it? No. All the orange seed wants to be is to be a tree that produces its oranges. And it wants its orange to be sweet. Because when the orange becomes sweet, it begins to attract people to it. It does not even do advertisement. But people will say, I want to have a bit of this orange. And they begin to come to it. And for me, this goes into the heart of discovering your personal leadership gift. First, to know that you and I are not giftless. We come into the world with a gift. So you cannot say, I do not have anything. That would be a most irresponsible statement to make. If you ever want to be great, in inverted commas, if you ever want to be significant, your significance is hidden in the discovery and the cultivation of your leadership gift. I call it leadership gift because I can also call it your personal gift, because that is the divine deposit that is inside of you, with which the maker, the giver of life, seeks to present it to the world. Your leadership gift is actually what defines your identity. When you go to that tree that is producing the orange, what do you call it? You call it by the name of the fruit it produces. By their seeds, by their fruit, you shall know them. Not by their seeds, not even by their branches, by their fruit. So the tree derives its identity from the fruit that it produces. You call it the orange tree. You call it the mango tree. The fruit, the gift, gives it its identity. You might have been given a name since birth, but can I suggest that you have no input into the name you are given? And that name may not fully convey your gift to the world. Now, we now need to find your name, your real name. And for me as an individual, my mission, I would say, one of my key goals is to be reduced to my first name and to add value to your own first name so that your name is known by your gift. When you find that gift, though, you must serve yourself to the world. That is why leadership is about service. It's not about being served. It's about winning the race to make it to serve your gift. There are a few thoughts here that I wish to advance, but let me take a focus just on the gift. Because if that is the case, then all of us on this training, all of us have gifts or giftings. And if all of us have the obligation to produce our gift, to release our gift, and if that is what defines our leadership, then this is a platform of leaders. It means that we are an organization of leaders. And I tell you what, you do not want me to produce my gift and you not produce yours. You do not want to produce your gift and me deny you my gift. You actually want each of us to produce our gift. And that makes us an organization of leaders, not an organization with a leader. That is why an organization of leaders is better anytime, any day than an organization with a leader. It means that we are an organization of shared responsibility because trapped in each of us is a leadership gift, which we are obligated to cultivate and release. So you should never say, I don't have a work. Your work came with you since birth. Your work is the cultivation of your gift, is the development of your leadership gift, and you always have your work. Your work is always with you. You may not have a job, yes, I won't disagree, but you will have a work. Because your work is the release, the cultivation, the enhancement, the refinement of your leadership gift. That is why leadership, true leadership, is not about people first. It's about the management, the coordination, the refinement of your leadership gift and the resources with which you need that to be cultivated. Now, it goes without saying then that you never become authentic until you discover that gift that has been put inside of you. That gift is not what a person put inside of you. It's not what somebody taught you. It's what God, the giver of life, put inside of you. And no human being is giftless. I have to say that time and time again. When you find that gift, you become valuable to the world. For me, one of my gifts is the ability to take a complex thing and make it simple. It may manifest in teaching. It may manifest in creating solutions. It doesn't matter. But my job, one of my key assignments is to simplify things so that when you hear it, your mind says, that makes sense. Oh, it's not complicated. My job is to make truth easy for the mind to embrace. And it's my privilege to serve my gift. And I do not need to impose myself on you. I just need to keep serving my gift. That is why leadership is not about people first. It's not imposing myself on you. It's not forcing you to follow me. No. The orange tree does not need to force any other person or any other tree to follow it. It just needs to stay faithful, producing its fruit, and keeps its fruit sweet. When you find your gift, you discover your power and the purpose of your time. Listen, you will continue to waste your time until you find the gift you have been privilege you have been endowed to cultivate and refine and enhance. Your time will always be wasted. It will be, this is why there's a difference between what is good and what is right. What determines the difference between what is good and right is whether or not you are investing your time in refining your leadership gift, that which the Creator has put inside of you to release to the world. That is your primary work. And every time you invest in that is time well spent. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. So leadership then is like a tree bearing its fruit. How simple can that be? How simple? I do not need to go to Harvard to come to the top of this statement. I do not need to go to Cambridge or to Oxford to come up with this. That is why your education is not what makes you a leader. It is your self-education, your education into yourself to know your gift. That is the custodian, that's the container of your leadership. Leadership is like a tree bearing its fruit. Leaders don't seek followers. Oh, I wish I can say this 100 times. Followers are attracted to leaders. Just like a tree is sought after for its fruit. When you find your gift, men will find you, not for you, but for your gift. This is why a leader has to be careful. When people come around you, do not think that they are enamored by you. They might be impressed by you temporarily, but they are not really coming for you. They are coming for your gift. And you must be mindful of that, lest you become prideful and think it's all about you. When you cease bearing your fruit, they will turn your back on you and go away. So the greatest mission that you have, that I have, is to become a servant. Let me change that word. A server of your gift. Not a servant of people, but a server or a servant of your gift, meaning it is your permanent commitment. When you find and develop your gift, people submit to the power of your gift. Guess what? Let me ask you a question. How many people here have an iPhone or a Samsung phone? As iPhone, the makers of iPhone, Apple, have they ever knocked on your door to say you must have a phone? Or as Mr. Samsung ever knocked on your door to say you must by all means take a phone? You go to them and you submit your money, your hard-earned money to them. You literally submit it to them. And you feel so excited to take their gift. When you present your gift, people make room for you. That's why, my root is in scriptures of God, or the word of God says, a man's gift makes room for him. You don't need to scramble and fight for room. The reason why you're fighting is because your gift is not being presented, or when you are presenting it, it is not good enough. You've not refined it. You must refine your gift, and therefore you don't need to clamor for attention. Your gift is the attractor, is the attention maker. The development of your gift, therefore, is your primary responsibility because it contains your significance, your fulfillment, and all of the wealth you ever seek is trapped in your gift. So it goes without saying that when you ignore your gift, we will ignore you. We will surely ignore you. If you are ignorant of your gift, we will be ignorant of you. Meaning then that your attitude to your gift is our attitude towards you. You choose. So what is your leadership gift? Let's begin to wrap it up. It is the assignment you came to the earth with. It is the most natural thing that you do because you are born with it. It's just natural. Okay, let me put it this way. Just to highlight how simple it is. Fishes swim. Orange tree produces orange. Birds fly. How simple can that be? Because we've been miseducated to complicate life, when in fact, it is so simple and right in front of us that we miss it. It is in plain sight. God hides our future in plain sight. He hides it in a place where we cannot miss it. He hides it in our heart. So your gift is the most natural thing that you do. It is the source of your greatest influence and authority. And it is your key to every place you ever wish to be. It can be raw. I think I saw Ayobami say something like that. Your gift can be very raw at birth, but it must be developed to have real influence. When you discover your gift, you really want to do nothing else. You want nothing else. The most important work you have is developing your gift. And then, to this point, your gift may be natural or it may be acquired. The natural gift that you have is what I would call your primary gift. Your acquired gift may come by training, is secondary. But can I beg you, do not ignore your natural gift, even if you have acquired other giftings. Can I suggest that you work to make sure that all of the gifts you acquired is invested in cultivating and refining your natural gift. When you find that marriage, oh, I tell you what, your life becomes simplified. Your life becomes what you have always desired it to be. What we all see, our goal is to have a marriage between our natural gifting and our acquired gifting, meaning your natural gift must acquire the skills to train it. Because when you first came to the world, your natural gift is raw, it's undeveloped. It needs cultivating. And indeed, you must cultivate it through inputs, secondary giftings, acquired giftings, all to enhance and refine and make your natural gift the best it can be. So, put it this way, make it your goal then to deliver a product or a service to your world. And it's not something you need to go and find from the ends of the world, it's trapped inside of you. But you must create a plan to deliver that product or service. It's an obligation. You also need to check whether you are on course on your way to delivering that product or service. Is called creating goals or developing milestones. Your passion is your fuel to produce that. Right. I need to quickly wrap up. Your persuasion about your product, aka faith. That's why I say, for me, the word faith is not a religious word. It means it's your conviction, it's your persuasion about your product, about your gift, about your leadership gift. And you need to be totally persuaded about it. It's your conviction. But your gift will require perseverance and patience because, hey, the road that leads upwards is an uphill. You do not simply fly to your destination. No, it requires climbing. And climbing requires perspiration. You will sweat, but you improve. I want to recommend a book to you. A book Solomon and I, my friend Shagun, read when we were in the university. It's called Signposts on the Road to Success by E.W. Kenyon. It says, make your brain sweat. Make your brain work. It will sweat, but it will improve. Someone will remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Now, absolutely. But look at it. You will always need a team of people to deliver your product. You need the right people around you. Your passion will attract people, but you must qualify who has access to your door. Because your product, your leadership gift needs protection. Now, not everyone will appreciate your gift. So never become depressed because some people say no to you. You must understand the market for your product or your service or your leadership gift. So locate who and where your product is needed. But you see, one of the greatest designs that people do to their gift is once it hits the road or the first market, they then go to bed and cross their legs. No, you must constantly improve, constantly refine your gift. You must constantly adapt it to the changing market conditions. When I say market now, I'm saying the audience, the people to whom you're serving your gift. Orange must remain sweet and keep being sweet. Otherwise, people will turn their back on the tree. Your product is capable of global dominance, but your innovation of it is what takes it there. Your gift, your leadership gift, we need to be promoted in the right quarters, but you know what? The birds of the air know how to tell the matter. Oh, one audience that tastes your fruit will tell another one, say, I have seen someone who has told me everything I've ever done. Could this be the one we're looking for? And that's why you must stay faithful to producing and cultivating and refining your gift. Because when those people now come and they find that you are a cloud without rain, guess what they do? They turn their back, they go away, and they do not come back to you. Your product is unique, and it will be a vacancy on the earth until it is delivered. Although I have to say that people will make do with what they get. People will say, well, we adapt. People can always, manage, make do. But know that your gift is still a vacancy on earth. And this one is crucial. Your gift, your product is not for personal consumption. No tree eats its own fruit. Your gift is your contribution to your world. These are my last slides. How do you find your leadership then? Your leadership gift. If it's this important, then I would say, check and recheck your deepest desire. What problems are you seeing? We must stop being irresponsible. What does that? That's not an abuse. The word irresponsible means to refuse to respond to a problem that your mind cannot let go. So it's not an abuse. So when I say, oh, you're irresponsible, don't think I'm abusing you. I'm calling you to action. I'm asking you, respond to what you are saying particularly. We don't all see the same problem, but the one you see, check indeed whether that's the one you are really called to respond to. You have your passion, and you can have varying shades of passion, but you have the deepest passion, something that makes you cringe. You say, this has to be changed. Look, I am putting myself forward to have this change. What preoccupies your heart? Can I also suggest to you, from this point onwards, do not ignore your anger. I'm not talking about the anger that makes you want to kill someone. No, I'm not sorry. I'm talking about the anger that says, no, this cannot remain like this. Every leader has an anger. And that anger is what drives them to change, to make change happen, to make them commit to change. That anger is called passion. Your gift is what you constantly imagine. You're just saying a preferred future. You see, to escape from a condition that you see may just be a proof of irresponsibility, because you cannot change what you refuse to confront. So my question is, what do you wish to do for humanity? What do you wish you could do for humanity? What dream has been with you since 5 years old and you've just not stopped it? Do an inventory, do a what I would call a trace check on your life. From the time when you're 5, what was a behavior that was just with you? It was just with you until people shouted it down. And now you don't want to do it because people have criticized it for too long. Now think about it. Take time away from people, sit by yourself, now begin to reawaken those childhood dreams, those teenage dreams. Begin to unearth them, bring them out from the soil. What do you long to do for the rest of us, for humanity? What is it that brings you the greatest fulfillment? Say, you may be on a job, but what would you rather be doing? I'm not asking you to quit your job. I'm not asking you to quit your schooling, but what would you rather be doing? Make sure you understand that and tailor everything to cultivate it. Meaning, use your current education, use your current training at work to enhance your work. I can tell you how I do this. Sometimes I function professionally as a project manager. Sometimes I do a lot of architecting of business. But I stopped being an employer a long time ago. I just look at that environment as a place of deployment where I further cultivate my gift. Period. What is it that you are willing to do without being paid? These are the questions I'd like to do with you. But I must thank you for coming on board and listening to this. Because what you're saying is, I am not going to be lost in the crowd. And I really hope you do not get lost in the crowd. And what I'm saying to you, I'm saying to myself as well, because no one can say, I'm there already. Oh, this no longer applies to me. Your gift is capable of infinite refinement. And that's why you cannot sit on your hands and say, yeah, I'm there now. I'm already there. I already have it. No. You have not earned the right to think like that. And I think I should stop there.
Thank
Doc?
you very much, my very good friend, David Joe. That was a very, very powerful session. Uh, I must tell you, uh, I I was blessed, you know, and I know everyone on this platform has been blessed as well. This is something everybody out there needs to hear and listen to often and often. Before we wrap up this session, uh, I put a question on the chat box uh, where you said in your presentation that you are born to lead, but you must become a leader through a process. I know you've basically taught us how to do this, but I just, for the sake of emphasis, I just wanted to highlight how that developing, how to develop that process, how it works. I just wanted to highlight it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my very good friend. I hinted at it in the course of the presentation, but let me elaborate on it a bit more. All of our lives, as being a school. Honestly, if I look back, my secondary school, my university days, it's just a long, long school, long education, long road of education. And guess what? Our divine maker, God, has been hoping for. God keeps showing us things on the way, hoping that we'll pay attention to what is showing us. If I would crave your indulgence, let me use the example of, I don't know how many people here are familiar with scriptural lessons. I want to use the example of a Moses. Moses was a shepherd person looking after sheep. But a time came when God put out an advert. What was that advert? Bush was burning. It looks like, most adverts you see these days are really, they're like virtual reality. They just show you something that's possible. So bush was burning, and yet the leaves were still there. It was like virtual reality, like augmented reality was an advert. And the question is, when something is advertised to you, what the advertiser is hoping for is that whether it will catch your attention, whether you would, oh, wait a minute, what's this? But if you ignore it, the advert is a waste. It has not hit the target. So all the time, God is advertising our future to us all the time. And what was God advertising to Moses? His future. He was telling him, you are more than a follower of sheep or a leader of sheep. You are actually a leader of 3 million people. And you're going to take them to a new future. You're literally going to make the dream of Abraham come true. You're going to lead them to a nation. Moses had to pay attention. And my question really to all of us is, how much attention are we paying to God's constant advertisement to us? It's always, and so those things, they become like casual things. We could quite easily overlook them. And that's why we have to go back and have private, that's why I say that our best education, our greatest education is education back into ourselves, because most of us have been educated outside of ourselves. Now, you've been made to learn physics, but what has physics really got to do with you? It's useful, but not unless you are able to connect it to the purpose for which you're born. So, I look at my MBA. I spent a lot of money on it. But the only use I find for it is that I'm not able to connect it to the reason why I was born. So my $30,000 investment is only just, that's the only use I find for it. Anyway, my point here is we need a critical education back into ourselves with our maker to now say, what is it that you put inside this container? What did you put inside this container? What did you want to do with this container? When you are making this container, what was on your mind? That is crucial, because purpose is not about going to collect some work from someone else. The origin of purpose is in the maker of a thing. And I would not like us to waste the time. Listen, there are so many leaders in the world leading nations. But can I really ask you, would you really want any of those leaders to lead your life? If you really want to be honest with me, you will not give them permission to lead your life. But they have found themselves in a place where they are leading our nations, leading our organizations, and we're stuck with them. But there will never be a choice. You will never say, this is the man I want to lead my life. And that's why we have to go back to our origin. I ask you a question. How smart is a doctor who is smoking? His education may be great, but he is not wise. He is not wise. In fact,
He's an educated illiterate.
exactly. You may be highly educated in darkness. Because if all your knowledge is about devaluing people, does not really restore life and hope to people, all you know leads only to darkness. So I'm not too concerned about people's education, honestly. I really want to know the ideas in your mind, where did you get them from? Because the mind of a leader is more important than the actions or the words of a leader. Okay, the question still is, how do I find, what are the steps? First, discover your purpose. And literally sit, and I can go back to that slide. This is crucial. I'm not quite sure where it is now. Those steps that I literally highlighted, the purpose, and be convinced, the conviction of purpose. I think it's in the fourth section. The conviction. See, I'll tell you why conviction is important. When you want to implement change, expect opposition. Expect life to oppose you. Expect not to have enough money first. Expect people to stand up and criticize it. Expect people to, everything we say, no, we will not allow this to happen. And that is why conviction is important, because conviction, we feel your courage and confidence. That conviction is what powers what you see. It powers the vision. And I would say this way. I always say to people, become a self-documenter, meaning document yourself. Whatever I say, whatever it is you are learning about yourself, write it down, document yourself. Do not let those things go, write them down. And begin to have what I would call your own personal purpose statement. Now, the first day you write it, it may not look like the best statement written, but that's fine. I'll call it, write the first draft of your purpose statement. Write the first draft of your conviction. Whatever you are convinced about, write it down. Write the first version of it down. Write the first version of what you see, your vision statement down. Write it down. I'm saying to my friends, write it down. Then begin to write down the things you will do to protect your vision. I call them values. What are your values? What are the things you will do to protect that vision? Because you may have vision, but you may not have the right to execute it. They're two different things. When your values contradict your vision, you lose the right to serve your vision to us. What would you think if the pastor of your teacher sleep with the member of the choir? What will you do if your boss gives one of the employees a dirty slap? Will he retain the right to become the CEO still? What will you do if your president steals all the money in the country? Would you still call him, oh, this is my president, he has the right to lead this country? So you may have the ability, but you may lose the right to deliver it. And that's why values are important. Write it down. Write it. Please become become your own secretary. I'll put it that way. Write it down. Document yourself. When you document it, I would say, look at people that you trust. Share with them. Go to, talk to a doctor Oshinaya and say, this is what I'm thinking about myself. Find people you trust and say, look, this is my personal documentation. I am accountable. This is my responsibility, and I want to be accountable to someone. Again, you now start talking about having a mentor, having someone who is really interested in your life. But that value, the values, I tell you what, maybe they're even more important than the vision, because you can cancel your vision because of failure of values. Maybe I should stop there, Dr.
That's powerful. Thank you so much. Actually, I know you've already done that during the course of your teaching, but I just want the audience to get a bit of how that process actually works. That is why I said you should do a little
Yes,
elaboration.
it's a great question, and it's something obviously that we need to echo time and
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Thank you very much for your time, and I believe every one of us have enjoyed and really gained something from this teaching. Personally, I have been blessed, and I know some of the things that I have listened to. I will go over them over and over again to see how I can incorporate them into my life. I don't know if any other person has a question, one or two questions before we move to the next session, which is on transforming your leadership. Does anybody have a question?
Well, I really don't have a question, sir. I just want to say Mr. Kunle has done a good job, and I want to thank him for that.
Well, can I suggest that even you have done a greater job for listening, because I've spoken more to myself than to you. You see, leadership is a continuous pursuit. You never ever say, I've gotten there. So thank you very much for sticking by and for being in the training.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.